creating this product and creating what Kayani has given you, Mr. Kirk Henson, Michael Bichet, the model they have given you, it's basically, there's a one reason behind it, is to be significant. It's very essential to understand. The things which we are providing you as a model and product, imagine being a significant factor in every life, every person you'll touch. It gives you an opportunity to not only change people's lives around the world. You'll be giving the products when you're spreading. Each time you're giving them an opportunity to create wellness and also change their life if they choose to go into this business. So I wanted to be sure, so I can talk to you where I'm coming from. Now, the topic which I've chosen today, it's basically on the research, because you need to have the tools. When you're going out talking about the product, if you're excited, enthusiastic about it, but you need to know there's a science behind it, and most of the research I'm going to show you has been done in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And it is an independent research, and most of the research actually was done in New Zealand. So anybody from New Zealand here? Good. You'll see Dr. Paul Davis, some brilliant people we had gathered. And so let's go into the research and I'll give you my input. I won't spend too much time. I want to give you the concepts behind it, basically what the whole thing is about. If you look at this first study, I'll go through each study one at a time. But let's look at the study number 1. It was actually done several years ago. This is the initial study. It was not purely a double-blind or independent study. It was done with 2 of the doctors, myself, and one was from New York Medical School, NYU, Dr. David Baltimore. And we wanted to look into utilizing nitrofex at that time, to looking into 2 factors which play a key role in creating health. When you say I'm healthy, or somebody says I'm creating optimal health, what are the ways you can measure it? One is, can we change the pH in their body? Can we change the pH? And I'll show you what the pH is about. And the other is balancing the oxidative stress. Oxidative stress means the free radical load. So when you're traveling, when you're working hard 20 hours a day, when you're doing all these things, body produces free radicals, environmental stresses, psychological stresses, all these things produce free radicals in the body. So you need the antioxidants, you need something to take to counteract that. Otherwise the body goes more deterioration or rust. So let's start looking to a little bit more. When you're looking at a fish tank, when people are in, have a tank, if you see when the fish have to be alive, if they start dying, when you take the water to the person who knows what to do to help you, what do they check the first thing? pH. Because if the pH is not proper in the fish tank, fish start dying. And that same happens in our bodies. If your pH is out of whack, if it's not optimum, then the body cells start performing underperformance, or they start having issues. So let's look into it more detail. This is true in every cell in the body regarding the 2 things which are important for the cells to thrive, is the pH and the oxidative stress. So let's look into this. Every function in the body, including the production of hormones, enzymes, are dependent on proper pH. For oxygen and water nutrients to transfer, the communication of the cells is also controlled by the pH. Now when we use the word pH, a lot of physicians react with that. They really don't understand what do you mean by pH. They think it's some sort of a holistic thing, the natural medicine we use. But if you look at the medical textbook, the Bible of medicine, that every physician all over the world studies the same textbook, Arthur C. Guyton's textbook of physiology. And it talks about it. Without the proper pH, it should be difficult for the cells to incorporate the necessary nutrients, energy for good health. This could lead to cell weakening, which could lead to weakened tissue and then to organ themselves. So when a lot of the doctors and physicians ask me, what do you mean by pH? Criticism, I tell them, go back to the textbook and read what it is. Because optimization of that is essential. Even a cell to become malignant, if a cell to become abnormal cell, or for cell to become more expressing more genetic, inflammatory patterns, the pH has to go off. That's just the basic physiology. Right from every doctor should understand that. This is true for hormone production. This is true for anything body which needs. Even the nitric oxide, when we talk about, we won't have time to go in detail in that, but the nitric oxide production also normalizes the pH. in a way that it slightly moves towards alkalinity. So let's look into if the pH is out of balance. You're talking about cancer, heart disease, arthritis, diabetes, osteoporosis, digestive disorders, hormone imbalances. So that's why some of the testimonials which we hear, people are taking a simple, simplified model of wellness, triangle of health. How do their lives change? Because you're really addressing the core issues in the body, where you're balancing their pH, you're removing their you're providing them antioxidants which are taking care of the free radicals. That's how the body takes care of itself. The magic is actually in the body. You give them the right tools, you give them the right nutrients, what it needs, and it does what it's supposed to do to function optimally. So let's look into furthermore. What about oxidative stress? The simple way to understand oxidation, for medical terms, there is a glycation. There's so many words different use. Basically, oxidation is that with the aging itself, or the stress itself, the body cells, once, from the birth to the death, they start getting more and more oxidation. As a child, you produce more antioxidants, or body can handle more stress. The aging itself is called oxidation. That people, you start getting stiffness, the injuries take long time to heal. So if you can provide the nutrients to the body, you can counteract that. So let's look into a little bit more. What are the diseases associated with oxidative stress? Oxidative stress, the free radicals, what do they do? Heart disease, cancer, arthritis, respiratory problems, asthma, all these conditions, diabetes, and circulation problem. People with circulatory disorders, whether it's vasodilatory issues, whether it's it starts even what they call, it's not the cholesterol is the bad thing, it's the oxidized cholesterol which starts piling up in the arteries and start blocking it. So this study which we did was two things. So this is the key, is to have a slightly alkaline, to have a healthy body, you have a slightly alkaline pH, and you need to have the antioxidant intake which can counteract on the stresses which go into the body. So that's the balance. If the oxidation or the free radicals are more, you're going downhill. So the body needs to find a balance, and that is what our sunrise provides. People ask me the concept of the way it was designed. You got a nitroflex or a nitroextreme, creates a vasodilatory effect. It does more than that, but to simply understand, it creates vasodilatation. That means enlarge the arteries so the blood can flow, delivers the nutrients. What are the nutrients in the sunrise? Sunrise contains all the nutrients, vitamins, essential minerals, antioxidants, all the things found in superfruits to deliver to the target tissue so you can block the process of oxidation or free radical formation. So the body, instead of going downhill, gets evened out with age. So that's why you're looking at people who are 100 years old, 90 years old. James Bradford had put a 92 years old person on the Facebook. The people who take these things, deterioration goes down and they can live longer. That's one of the secrets we have here. This test was the clinical trial, and it did show that we can take the pH slightly towards alkalinity, and we can block oxidative stress quite significantly. Let's look into another study which was done. This was the first this was first independent study we launched, and which was totally done independent, which means once we design the model, once we give out that model, then it's out of our control. Then you cross your fingers and you hope for you believe this product does that, it really does that. Because once the study is done, it's out of our hand. This study actually was because a few years ago the concept of inflammation became big. Now we understand underlying every condition, physical, disease, dis-ease you can call it, has inflammatory patterns. It basically, the inflammation is the key towards heart disease, cancer, arthritis, anything you can think of. So our concept was, can sunset block inflammation? That was our theory. So we started this study in that concept, and if you look at to determine the anti-inflammatory effects of the Kyanese sunset, to compare anti-inflammatory activity of Kyanese sunset with a known anti-inflammatory compound. I won't read the slides, I'll give you my own simplified version. Basically, when the study was designed, I wanted to see, is sunset as effective as an anti-inflammatory as a prescription drug? And the prescription drug we chose was chloroquine. Chloroquine is also used for malaria, but it's one of the benefits of chloroquine is that it blocks interleukin 1B, 1 beta. There are several factors in inflammation, tumor necrosis factor, IL-B, IL-6, IL-13, TNF-alpha and all that. But we picked up the one which is well published, and we wanted to see comparison. How do we stand as a natural product against a pharmaceutical drug? Because if you take pharmaceutical drug long time, you'll have major problems with that. Chloroquine, everybody knows that. From liver damage to a lot of things. But we want to be sure, is it as effective and more safer? Let's look into it. This was some of the compounds I mentioned about: TNF-alpha, tumor necrosis factor, IL-10, IL-12, interleukin-1 beta. We picked up interleukin-1b, 1 beta, to see what the effect was. And you know, this tells you, this basically the study, what you do is, in a research facility, you stimulate the cells, cause an injury, create inflammation, and be sure they are creating inflammatory patterns. That's what the slide mentions about. So, if you look at in this study, chloroquine completely inhibited the interleukin-1 beta, because that's known. But Kayani's sunset, even at 5 to 10%, was able to completely inhibit interleukin-1 beta as good as chloroquine without producing any side effects. And this shows that. This shows that. That is significant. So that's why people come to me with CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, joint pains, all these things, how they improve. Even people take it at night and their sleep is better. There's a one ultimate logic behind that is, when you're taking the sunset at night, it's cutting down your inflammatory response with all the stresses in life. So when you cut down the inflammation, the cortisol doesn't get activated at night, because you have less cortisol to fight the inflammation patterns, and you can bring down the cortisol down, you can bring the inflammation down, and you sleep well. So this is very important to understand. The inhibition was almost, we call 98%, 97% is 100% statistically. So it was equally effective as a drug without side effects. So, stopping inflammation, how much was sunset doing? Say 100%. How much? That's right. Any side effects? How many people are taking sunset here? So see, all people are happy and alive here due to the sunset, controlling inflammatory patterns. Right? It actually helps the collagen production. That's why people are looking beautiful too. That's one of the secrets. Now let's look at the research study number 3. It's a controversial topic we intentionally picked up. One of the things I want to say before I show you the study, I do not stand here as the head of the Kayani Scientific Board and I'm saying that take the triangle of health and it cures cancer, or take nitroxine cures cancer. That's not the thing. Because technically by law, we have to have a disclaimer say that nutritional supplements are not there to treat and treat the conditions and all that. But I'm showing you pure science what it showed. And the topic we picked up was one of the hot top topics in medical pathology, that somebody, when they get abnormal cell growth, cancer we can call it, when they get abnormal cell growth, the key is to treat it. Basically, you want the abnormal cell growth or pathology in a localized area. Because if you create metastasis or if it spreads, you got a problem. That's why people with cancer, once they're diagnosed, it is oncologist's dream that if it's localized, it's more successful. Once it leaves the site from colon into liver or into brain, you got a nightmare. And the way it does this, what we call the word angiogenesis. That means it creates its own blood supply and starts spreading. So let's see what our studies show. This is a pure scientific study, has nothing to do with cure cancer or not. It's irrelevant, but it's important to understand, and that's one of the things I told the Diamonds last night. We should not focus on conditions, diseases and all that. What we should focus is, at the end of the day, if you look at all marketing statistics and analysis and all that, people are looking for one thing: wellness. People want to maintain wellness, people want to prevent what their genetic conditions are, people want to maintain their health. That is your target market, and people are afraid of becoming cancer in future, or they have a family history of cancer. That's ideal for them to choose this type of lifestyle, to choose triangle of health, because it will give them an option not to create more inflammatory patterns and block the cancer instead of forming cancer growth. It gives you a better bet. It gives you more higher chances. If you know the cards, you can win the game. So taking these products gives you more chances of winning the game at the end of the day. So let's look at this research. This is what is the diseases which are formed in angiogenesis active. You've got solid tumors, cancers, macular degeneration, arthritis. Especially if you look at the conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, it's crippling, spreads all over the body. Joint starts falling apart. How does it do it? By angiogenesis processes. That vessels keep on growing around and keep spreading the response of the body. These are more conditions. These are right from the patients. I took some of the slides, so you can see all the conditions which are involved. And so our hypothesis was, will nitro extreme slow the growth of angiogenesis? That was the hypothesis we worked on. A big challenge. Michael Bashir actually was not happy. Oh, it's a complicated study, and should we do it? I said, why not? Because if we are generating nitric oxide to an injury site, we should be able to block that. That's the medical science says that. So let's see whether we can do it or not. So let's proceed with that study. This shows you take aortic cell, from the aorta. That's aorta is your large blood vessel from the heart pumps, and it goes into the aorta, aorta, and that's how it spreads. So we take aortic cell and you cause a tissue injury, and if you look at the bottom slide, you will see within few days, 7 days, the vessels start growing due to the tissue injury. They start busting out. Any injury when happens, that means anytime the cell has been damaged, that will happen. The vessels will start growing around. It's a survival for the body. Body is trying to create more to survive. That's why after heart attack and all that, people develop collateral vessels, they call them. Collateral, which means other vessels come up to just make you live longer. So the body does the same way. But in certain conditions, it's dangerous. Because if it was a tumor, it was a bad thing, then it's going to spread out. So let's look into further. And what in this research we did is, we took a control factor and we also took what we call endothelial factor, which basically means is you stimulate an injury so you can aggravate that. You have a baseline and you stimulate an injury so you can aggravate that. Then you apply nitroxene and see what happens. It's simple to understand that way. Okay, this is shows you the Kyanic proprietary noni blend. And after applying it on 7 days, if you look at the slide below, the vessel growth is totally gone, it's clean. That means injury has been retained. That's a fascinating, it's as good any pharmaceutical drug is there in the market right now. Totally inhibition of that, 100%, not even 99, 98, 95%, 100% inhibition. This gives you another slide I want to show you from 0 to 7 days. The top slide on the right you can see 7 days, all the vessel growth around it. Then bottom with the growth factor along with the injury tissue, when the nitroxene was applied, totally inhibition. Look at the upper and the down, totally clean white out, complete, no growth at all. What does the model shows us? Kyani blend 100%, not even say I said 99, 96, 95, 100% inhibits the growth of blood vessels in a damaged tissue. People who are in science or physicians and all that here, they can understand the significance, what it can be utilized after a serious incident or to prevent somebody getting more further sick. So this was a very, very significant study for us. Let's look into more research where this angiogenesis applies, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis. This is how it looks like. Basically, if you look at that, is the smaller localized tumors that can grow and spread. It's the vessels, body develops all these blood vessels around it, so it starts spreading out. This is basically how angiogenesis in a test tube, when the pharmaceutical research is done. Then they apply the pro-angiogenic drug which can block the inhibition of angiogenesis. The pharmaceutical industry works a lot on these things to see how the chemotherapy and all these things work. But all these medication, people ask me, why are you against drugs? I tell them no. It's not I'm against drugs, because there is a place for pharmaceuticals. I agree, I came from that background. I practiced medicine for a long time. But I decided at the end of the day in my life that I'm a hypocrite, that I do not use the things which I'm prescribing and making a living. I should be only doing what I really want to do. And what I learned is, once you make a decision, things fall in place dramatically. I took a decision that was a long time ago. Some of you guys were not even born. I built up from the decision I took that I need to take something which nature has to offer. Let's try natural medicine. Let's try vitamin therapy. Let's try all that. I was running 53 clinics, massive clinics in US. Largest practice I built up. Hundreds of doctors employed. Only thing was, but the choice I took, everything fell in place. The complementary medicine, alternative medicine grew massively. And the beauty is, I always stand and say, you know, thousands and thousands of patients we have treated. And I can guarantee you, whether I cured everybody or not is not an issue. But I can guarantee you, everybody who has seen and followed my model, and I've trained thousands and thousands of doctors, everybody who has followed that model, that they have made a significant difference in patients' life. Where they were and where they were after they follow the natural lifestyle is much better. If you go into the pharmaceutical world, it's a downhill. I'm not against that. But look at the statistics, the amount of pharmaceuticals people when they take and they die, the amount of side effects. So the doctors, if you know, the Hippocrates oath is first do no harm. So it's a common sense for the doctors to look into this model, to take the things which are safer for people, because you'll really give them an opportunity to heal body even better, you know, instead of overusing pharmaceuticals, which does more harm on that. So let's look into the next one. Thank you. This is how it looks like, the spread of, you know, the angiogenesis of the tumor spreads and all that. And the goal is basically to block that. It's like saying to cut the roots of the cause. You know, whatever is growing, cut the roots, don't water the plant, and it will die. So that's exactly what the nitro extreme did in the study was, shut down the angiogenesis part. It gives you huge opportunities to think deeply, but do not stand there and tell that, you know, take this and it cures the cancer. That's not the way to think. Use it more wisely, use it more as a preventative model. There are millions and billions of people. You know, I have put a lecture on heart attacks and myocardial infarction. 17 million people worldwide die. 17 to 19 million. Latest stats is 19 million people die suddenly with a heart attack. I guarantee you some of these conditions with the highest amount of people die, they are all preventable diseases. And in modern medicine, we are good in emergency and all that. We do not have a solution to help these people. The doctors are not trained to give nutritional care. Doctors are not trained to teach patients how to live a lifestyle which can make them prevent all these conditions. Some of the suggestions which are given in dietary guidelines, fat is bad, this is good, this is not good. It comes out of ignorance of most of the physicians. They don't even read what the nutrition is about. Some of the doctors, when I'm training, they ask me, I mean, what about this, what about this? I said, which research are you looking at? If you look at the Medline, PubMed, Medline Plus, all the medical major sites which all the world looks into to finding information, there are more papers coming out on nutrition, on herbs, all these botanical than drugs. Pharmaceuticals haven't come out with any breakthrough product for a long time. Everybody's waiting for the next billion-dollar drug. And the billion-dollar drugs currently, you know, the statins and all that. And you know, I'm on the stage, so I can say my opinion. Statin are drugs which were like billions of dollars company made from statins. The disaster is after brainwashing all the physicians 20 years later with all the statins, Zocor, you know, all these medications which they came out with, the Lipitor and all that. We are standing now, they're looking into all the mess they were giving them, lowering cholesterol. Now they have to deal with dementia and Alzheimer. So one drug you take for one thing and you're creating another problem. And the funny thing is, just by taking sunset alone, it lowers the risk of dementia and Alzheimer tremendously. Fish oil, omega-3s have more research backing it up than anything. The difference is only this. How comes doctors and all the pharma industry doesn't get? Oh, it's about money. It's all about money. And average drug profit sharing is almost 48,000%. It's massive. It's massive. So you as an individual, each one of us, it's not only responsible, to establishing our lives, to make our quality of our lives better, but also your responsibility providing and introducing these products to people. Because they really follow a good lifestyle with exercise, diet, nutrition, along with the triangle of health, it can really revolutionize the way up. It can prevent a lot of people getting into trouble, prevents a lot of deaths in the future. Let's look at the last study fourth. This was basically the study which this was done by Dr. Tom Berg, one of my colleagues. And I have been entrepreneur type in my mind from a long time. I was a misfit among the medical doctors. When I was in residency, I used to say, what the hell am I doing with these people? I don't belong here with these people. So I was different because I would question everything. And I was questioned. This is years ago I would question, because in the guidance textbook of physiology, the Bible of medicine, it says cholesterol is the most potent antioxidant which body produces. Guidance says that. Then you go into the clinical part of it, then you're trying to reduce cholesterol. So I would ask my professor, well, it's good, so why do we need to? But they will get ticked off, is a problem. I was, and that's why even I had to go into my private practice, because I was unemployable. Nobody would hire me. I have a question. I had no choice. But to create my world, then I can dictate the bullshit. Harass them. I can't take somebody's bullshit. I'll question too much. Somebody got to stand the truth. Somebody got to say the king is not wearing any clothes. Right? You got to say that. Now, this study originally 14 years ago, basically about 14, 15 years ago, Dr. Tom Berg, that's when we met. And we became friends. And he had approached me. He knew I was involved with a lot of company launches, from the pharmaceutical industry to the nutritional industry. I've launched a lot of companies' products, marketing campaigns and all that. So he approached me that somebody has approached him that noni plant can change this, can do this, can do this. So I said, Tom, if in pharmaceutical we believe this is a one active ingredient, and when you give it, we know what the outcome is. So you're doing a research to prove that. But in this case, you're looking at a complex model that you got one botanical phytomedicine, which changes immune function, brain function, this function, that function. So there has to be one underlying physiological mechanism which can alter. So what do you think? People ask me, you're smart. I tell them, I'm not smart. I basically have smart people around me. I just ask them, questions. Why this? Why that way? How come? Can you think? So I work in that model. What do you think? So we came out with the hypothesis that it has to be nitric oxide released hypothetically, because that's the only thing which can really affect every physiological function in the body. Nitric oxide, before even I go into that, if you look into little detail, it has a vasodilatory effect, but at the end of the day, the importance of nitric oxide is this. In few words, I'll describe it. It's the most studied molecule in the history of medicine. 136,000 papers plus have been published since last almost decade. Tremendous. But what we did was something unique. The model was based on L-arginine. We created a concept 14, 15 years ago that the nitrates are actually more important than even L-arginine to create NO. 10 years or 14 years later, we revolutionized the industry. Now you look at the research, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of papers are coming out. Products have come out. All these models which we created with just a concept. At that time, the study we showed that if you take endothelial cells, it can generate nitric oxide. So that was the conceived idea where the NitroFX was created. It's made on a study by Dr. Berg. So what happened was, it bothered me that we have created a model which was 14 years old. Now I have a NitroXtreme. It's my favorite product. I like it. But I spent more time in when I was formulating it. So we need to study what we are saying is true, and it really does. So we've picked up a study and wanted to see, because the original study was done on animal model cells. It was mice, it was a mouse or rats or mice was done. So I wanted to pick up a human cell study, because I said humans take these products. So let's pick up a human model in which you can have aorta from the human. That's the largest blood vessel which from where the heart pumps right into the aorta and everywhere the blood flows. So let's see if we can change and alter that. So this study was, we picked up the endothelial cell from the aorta, and then we picked up known stimulators tested, insulin, compound A213C. In research, when you do, you have to take a couple of other compounds to see what is your baseline and how you compare to the other standards. So let's look into this. This basically, the studies after 3 hours of the control, insulin and A23187. These are your control which shows when you apply on the aortic cell, nitric oxide is generated. Okay? Now, let's look at this. This is remarkable. When you apply the standards insulin, A23187, sample 1, sample 2, sample 3. In this study, I asked the corporate, I want from 3 independent different batches. We want nitroxanes, not from one batch. We wanted batch which was produced 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 2 months ago, 15 days ago. So we picked up 3 different batches. We had no idea which that batch was, and that was sent to the lab, and this is it showed. 3 hours after that incubation, look at the control and look at the amount of nitric oxide production from the 3 different batches. So that is 100% showing NitroExtreme produces nitric oxide. What do you think of this? And on the top of that, it stayed 24 hours. So the 24 hours, it stays there, the effect of that. Very important to understand, the nitric oxide is a gas. When it is existed in the body, it's in 2 seconds. For 2 seconds, but it's called signaling molecule. That means once it's generated like this, it controls, passes a signal to every function you can think of. The word I usually use, right from, I should use the word, there are a lot of women here, from erection to conception, you need the nitric oxide. It's true, scientifically it's true. The sperm won't move to the target if there's not enough nitric oxide production. The sperm cannot penetrate ovum. The baby cannot develop unless it generates nitric oxide. Once you are born till you die, the aging process is controlled by the nitric oxide production. When I'm talking to you, you're trying to understand my accent. You're trying to figure out what I'm saying. If you have low nitric oxide, you won't get what the hell I'm talking about. If anybody's having a hard time, you haven't taken your NitroExtreme today. Try it. Exactly. Give it to Jan. Okay. So that's very important because the brain, even the neurotransmitters in the brain cannot communicate. The signaling molecule means the president of the country can order as the chief commander and the whole army gets into action, right? He doesn't have to go do the job. That's the same signaling molecule, nitric oxide. Once it's generated, it basically orders every physiological actions in the body, and it's all through communication. It's all through communication. So, what does the study show? NitroExtreme increases nitric oxide production by 300%. Right? Just alone on the baseline, it increases. Just a baseline, if you're comparing with anything else, not doing anything, 100% nitric oxide production is increased just by taking. That shows one thing. That's why I always say, before you start your day, before you take your breakfast, you got to take NitroExtreme or NitroFX, then you take your sunrise, then I have to eat something. By taking the NitroFX and NitroExtreme, the model gets into place very easy. Because 100% you're producing nitric oxide, that means you're creating 100% vasodilatory effect. Communication is ready, body is ready to see what it needs to take. So when you're taking the sunrise, which is loaded with a nutrient, you're going to provide everything what the body needs and is approved. That's why people ask you, what about this juice, what about this vitamin? They're all good, I never put down anything. But the key is the delivery system. we have something which is guaranteed delivery. We have shown with the independent research that once you generate a nitric oxide, you can deliver, because once the nitric oxide is generated, everything falls in place. So this study was remarkable that way. Let's look into quickly, before I finish, I'm running a little bit over time, how key few things to remember. Reduces oxidative stress, daily free radicals. So if you want to live longer, feel healthy, feel optimum, reduce your oxidative stress, triangle of health provides you, balances pH, inhibits angiogenesis, I showed you the study, helps reduce inflammation, supports immune system. Immune system, any immune cell, whether it's macrophages, white blood cells, neutrophils, lymphocytes, none of them will move unless the nitric oxide signals them to move. So the inflammatory, whether it's inflammation markers, reduction, or moving the immune system where it needs to be, you have to have nitric oxide production. To increase communication, cellular communication is very important. If cells don't communicate with each other, body starts falling apart. Brain, everything starts deterioration. Communication improves by that. So we'll go through quickly. Maintain heart health, promotes increased energy, cognitive brain health, blood sugar, maintain healthy blood sugar, improve sexual health. How many people want sexual health improvement? Right? And I gave an example last time I talked. I said, well, in the medical industry, they use the model. What's the most sold drug in the world after statins? Viagra, right? Viagra works on the same model of nitric oxide. But what's the problem with Viagra?
Side effects.
Number one side effect, blindness. Right? That's number one side effect. So imagine you're feeling hot but you can't see, right? You're trying to find a person you want to get in with. So important. I think I'll end this way. Safer to take nitro effects, so when you enjoy life, you're not blind at that time.